What's up? What's up? It's a special tips episode. Get ready to listen to a quick tip and apply it into your life to accelerate your fertility results. And let's get fertile AF. Hello and welcome to Egg Meets Sperm. My guest today is my friend Elizabeth King. She is certified fertility expert and founder and CEO of the Fertility Coach Academy, who helps people of all backgrounds conceive a healthy baby and carry to term. After having 3 children of her own at the age of 40, Elizabeth believes taking a more holistic approach is the key to success when attempting to conceive. Now, as a master certified ICF life coach, birth and bereavement doula, and new parent educator, she has helped hundreds of women achieve their dreams of conception and parenthood in 20 plus countries around the world. She supports clients through natural fertility, infertility, IVF, miscarriage, loss, early pregnancy, PTSD, and new parent support. With over 26,000 followers on Instagram, Elizabeth is the host of the podcast Creation Innovation and is a contributor to the book Naturally Conceived. For her expertise, she has been featured in Forbes, BBC, Romper, Parade Magazine, Entrepreneur, and the New York Post. On Good Morning Washington, Sacramento's Your California Life, The Tamron Hall Show, and on podcasts like The Transition Channel and The Bachelor to the Burbs. Welcome, Elizabeth. I'm so excited to be talking to you today.
Me too. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's lovely to have you, and wow, just what a great intro, honestly. Like, you're such a badass, and you're doing this with 3 children over 40.
Yes, I am doing it with 3 children over 40. And yeah, I'll take it. I'm a badass. I'll receive that.
Yes. So in terms of diving into our topic today, I'm curious what your take is on motherhood in our quote unquote older years, and this idea that our fertility falls off of a cliff and all of the things. I'm curious how you connect to all of those things.
Yeah. Well, I think prior to having children, you kind of had the 2 people that I knew. The ones that had them really young, like my friends from high school, right? That now have kids in their like early 20s, which is crazy. And then the people that I knew that were having them older. And you had always heard, oh, well, once you're older, you have more patience, you have more financial stability and all of that sort of stuff. And then when you're younger, you kind of just like power through it and whatnot. Well, I didn't really when I was younger, I didn't really contemplate having children at that time anyway. I wasn't in a position to do that. I got married quite young and divorced at 30. So that we didn't have children in that marriage. And then I was single from 30 to 40. So again, I wasn't in a situation of like, should I be doing this? It was kind of like I didn't have a choice, so to speak. So before I knew it, I was one of those ones that was doing it as I was older. Now, being in it now for a few years and recognizing the differences, I think there's, pros and cons to both for sure. I certainly wouldn't be somebody who's like a cheerleader on the sideline of like, wait until you're 40 to have kids. I mean, no, that's not what I'm here to say. Am I here to say that it's possible? Absolutely. And recognize that I think we both know many, many people, it's so common to have children over 40. Like that's not a thing. I think the thing is that I had 3 children over 40, over 41. That's a little bit different. That is a little bit more unusual. But the difference I think is, you know, everybody individually is so different. For me, having them older, there's a lot of beautiful aspects in that because we do have the ability to have more help because we are more financially set up than I would be if I was 25 and whatnot. But you still deal with the same stresses. It's still a lot. It's still, I have 3 boys that I had within 3 years. It's a lot happening. And I think no matter what age you are, parenting is not easy. At least for me, it wasn't easy. I understand that for some people, they're like, oh, it's, so beautiful and it's amazing. And I'd have 10 children if I could. And I don't think I could do that. And to answer your second part of that question about this fertility myth of, the cliff over 35, I really don't subscribe to that, Mama. I don't. Again, having 3 over 41, granted, I also had some losses. So I'm not here to say that that's not part of it, because I think that when you do go down that road of having them older, you kind of have to think that's a possibility. And the reason that's a possibility is because, our 41-year-old eggs are 41 years old. Our 25-year-old eggs are 25 years old. That's not the case in everybody. Some people, the 25-year-olds could have issues, and the 41-year-olds obviously have differences as well. I think what's beautiful now versus years ago is we have the ability to understand our bodies and how we nourish our bodies and what we do, as well as our mindset and the effect that it has on every cell in our body, as including our eggs, right? And that's how I feel we were able to get to the point of helping so many people, not only myself, carry healthy babies. Because I think that's another thing is when I was younger, we had this idea of if you had a child over 35, it was something wrong was going to happen to that child. It wasn't going to be healthy. I don't know about you, but that's what I was told.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I feel like that because of the way the stats are, they're kind of stacked in against us if we choose to have a child over 35.
100%.
And
I don't know if you've ever seen one. I was at a fertility doctor with a client, and he was doing his PowerPoint presentation to my client of like how your numbers go down as you age and whatever. And I was like, if this is not depressing and causing somebody to like want to jump off the cliff themselves, I don't know what is. Like, this is not helping.
right.
Yes, the statistics
Yeah.
are not great.
Yeah, no. But I think to your point, I feel like there are definitely things that we can do to kind of stack the odds in our favor. And that doesn't mean it's a guarantee. It doesn't mean, oh no, that never happens. But in general, there's a lot that we can do. And my belief is that a lot of the genetic abnormalities or possible like diseases and disorders that become more common or become higher statistics in women over 35 are quote unquote preventable from the aspect of doing the nutritional things, making sure the hormones are in place, doing all of the kind of underneath work
Yeah.
to support a healthy outcome. And we can't guarantee that healthy outcome, but chances are it's going to be pretty good.
Right.
So, yeah, I
And I
think,
always say would you rather do all of those things that at the time may seem like you're putting a lot of effort in, or not and know, well, what if I would have, right? If I would have just, taken those supplements or eaten a little bit better or known what foods were causing inflammation in my body, maybe I would have had a different outcome. I'd much rather be like, I checked all the boxes. I did all that I could. I tried my hardest, and here we are, right?
yeah,
It just makes you feel a little better about yourself too.
yeah, absolutely. And it helps, like the body is then informing the mind in terms of like, I don't have to psych myself out, and I can trust myself. I can trust my body, and I can
Yeah.
trust like what's happening here to
Yes.
not freak out that I'm older and
Yeah.
pregnant.
Right. Totally.
Yeah. Yeah. So I absolutely agree with you wholeheartedly, like definitely not a believer in this like 35 myth.
And in fact, I think that the more studies that you read about it, they are shifting that because it just doesn't hold up anymore. I mean, there's so many numbers and so many people that are having children older that those statistics just, it's not what it was previously because we know better and we're doing better with our bodies, and the inflammation that we are able to prevent that we weren't previously. I mean, we all know, you see women now that are, in their 60s, 70s, you're like, gosh, they look so good, right? And that's the same thing with our internal bodies too, right? So that's why our 35, 40-year-old insides are so much better, is because we're doing so much more for ourselves than we were 50 years ago.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm curious to hear from you. What are some like unique challenges that you think come up over 35 or 40 that don't necessarily come up under 35?
Yeah, well, I would say the main thing is the mental state, honestly.
Mm,
Um, it's this, so yes, we all have to figure out what's happening with our cycle. Are we ovulating? Are you taking peeing on the sticks every month to see what's happening and all of that stuff? But when you're older, you have this additional stress of, I don't have the months to keep trying this and figuring out what's going on, right? So it's this underlying stress of watching the clock of, I got to figure it out now. I don't have, technically in medical terms, they say 6 months if you're over 35 and a year if you're under 35. Well, 6 months, even at that time, feels like I don't have 6 months to
hmm.
wait to figure this out, right? I got to figure this out now, because if you kind of start to do the math backwards of, if I don't get pregnant by this time, then this is going to happen. Or if I do get pregnant now, I won't deliver till I'm 41, and then I'm going to, if I want to have another kid, then it's going to be whatever. So it's this underlying stress of the clock ticking that somebody who's older has, that someone who's younger doesn't understand, that kind of voice in your head of, we gotta make it happen. It's almost like a desperation. And you already feel a sense of desperation even at 26. If you want to have a kid, 6 months seems like forever, but it's a different type when you really do not have time on your hands. Again, I'm all about having kids in your 40s, but the reality is it is not as easy as it is in your 20s and 30s. So there is a different sense of urgency when you're trying to figure it out at an older age.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Um, so what, in terms of like the over 40 person, let's say like I'm 41, I am trying to figure out why I'm not getting pregnant. Walk me through what you would suggest for someone like that. How soon should I do testing? How,
Yeah.
like walk me through all of the steps.
Yeah. So all the OBs and REs, plug your ears, because I'm the first to say, don't wait the 6 months. If you have to tell the doctor that you've been trying 6 months, tell them what they want to hear, but then go in and get the lay of the land. See the fertility doctor rather than an OB, I would say, because again, we want to go to somebody who specializes in what you're trying to do. So an RE, you don't have to be afraid that you're going to go down the path of IVF. That is not what we're talking about. We just want to know what is happening in there. Is everything clear? Are you ovulating? Do you have follicles that are still there? Because you don't want to be, trying for 6 months only to know you don't have anything happening, right? So you'd be wasting that time. So I always feel, as soon as you can, get that appointment on the books to just have someone do a vaginal ultrasound, do some blood work, see what your AMH is, and just know what your starting point is. Then you can figure out, okay, do I want to try to have a baby naturally? And I would say most people, given the fact that they don't have any genetic issues or whatever, will want to try naturally first, of course. So then figure out, what is it that I'm dealing with? Do I have a regular cycle? Am I ovulating? Is there any, other types of hormone imbalances that I need to be aware of? Are my periods painful? Are they too light? Are they too heavy? Is there anything that we need to be aware of from that perspective? And then feed in all the natural things that you can do. I'm a big proponent of seed cycling. I love seed cycling. I think that's a really great natural way to help your cycle get on track and also give your body that extra boost of progesterone and estrogen when it needs it. And then also those supplements, I think people sometimes Google fertility supplements online and get very overwhelmed with what is out there because it can literally be a laundry list of things you feel like you have to choke down every day.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a proponent of that. I feel like figure out what your body needs and hone in on those things, because if we're taking too much, it's hard for your body to metabolize that as well. If it's getting more of something it doesn't need, it's not helping. So want to make sure that you hone in on those sorts of things. And a big part of it, I know we've talked about this before, is the inflammation. So figuring out what the food sensitivities that you have and eliminate those. And it's not necessarily, eliminating everything, but also the things that specifically that cause you some inflammation and start pulling those back. The other thing I would say too is that mental state, right? Is really figuring out what is it going to be for me to click that my body is capable of doing this. So for me, when I was starting to recognize that I was getting to an age that, oh, I actually think I do want to have kids and I'm getting a little older. And at this point, I actually was even single, but I just had this thought process in my head that I would have this mantra to my body: I can create, I'm able to create. And that was all about my uterus and everything being able to create. And sure enough, I held on to that until I actually created these embryos in my body to be my children that are here today. And it really is a mindset shift of being friends with your body, as you said earlier, trusting your body that it is capable of doing what it's meant to do and feeding it everything that it needs in order to do that. And I think we live in a time now that we're pretty stressed a lot. We're doing a lot of things. We live pretty masculine for most of us that are, on the women's side, to try to be doing this ourselves and really focusing back in on that feminine energy as well. So my approach really is taking all of the things and working towards what needs to happen in order to create that baby and bring it in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love it. Thank you so much. And I'm gonna have to go there because this is like my favorite thing to talk about. So can we talk a little bit about this masculine, feminine,
Oh
and how
yeah.
it shows up on the fertility journey? Because I think it's so crucial. And I love that you just said that without me asking anything because I'm like, oh my God, someone else thinks like me.
Oh, I didn't know. I didn't know that you talk about that too.
Yes,
Oh,
yeah.
cool.
I
Yes.
it's like one of my it's like my thing.
Oh,
And
nice.
yeah, I don't know why or how it became my thing, but I've definitely like over the years just kept seeing this pattern. And I was like, all of the women have this thing. And I also like I recognized it within myself. It was
Yeah.
part of what got me into the fertility journey for myself. And it like I had healed my own stuff around it, but then I kept drawing in everyone that also
Yeah.
had that to heal. So
Yes.
it's
As we
like
do,
not
right?
a surprise. Yeah. Yeah. Like you did it, now you can help other people.
Yes. Yeah. No, I mean, where do we start? There's so much to it, I think. And as I said before, I was single from 30 to 40 and have had my own business since I was 23. So for a very long time.
Yeah.
So living and working in a masculine world, right? Most of us do, let's be honest, and there's
Yeah.
very few industries that are, feminine driven. But in order to be successful and essentially get a seat at the table, you do have to put your masculine hat on. And if you're living alone, you're taking out the trash, you're doing all the things that, you would assume maybe that's the gender role in that way. Now, I'm not saying that you can't be doing those things and not be feminine. You can. I think ultimately though, what I'm trying to say is we all have masculine and feminine points to ourselves. Everybody does. Even the men have feminine aspects, right? So we're not trying to take away that. But when we're trying to build that relationship with our body and be in that feminine in order for our body to do what is feminine, right? What nature wants us to do as females to create. We want to encourage that. And how do we encourage that? Putting on earrings, putting on lipstick, wearing a dress, and I tell my clients, and as silly as it sounds, we all know what it feels like when you put on a dress after you've been in like workout pants. You feel different, right? Or if you put on a suit and you're going to somewhere, you feel different. And you just do. I don't know.
Yes.
Somebody
Yeah.
has yet to tell me that they don't feel different when they do that, but you do. And so a lot of us now working from home, it's really easy. I see my clients are in like a hoodie and like workout pants. I'm like, girl, you need to go put a skirt on or put a dress on and just work like that today. I know it seems totally out of the ordinary, but it's part of your homework, part of your exercise to get into your feminine energy, to get that switched on in your body, to say, okay, I'm in a feminine energy today. I'm going to do something that way. The other
Mm-hmm.
part of that brings in that feminine energy, and what I talk about a lot, is connecting to Mother Earth. How do we do that? That could be putting your feet in the ground every day, hugging a tree. And I know that sounds silly, but if you do it, it's actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm lucky that the trees in my area are not, they're small enough that I can actually get around them. But if not, just touch a tree, touch a plant. Do have something that's natural and nature around you that you're connecting with again, and just to have that acknowledgement that we're going into our feminine. Wear pearls. Not, it's not a stone, but the pearl is a sign of feminine energy. The moon, especially around full moons, like get out in the moon, and just, people call it moon bathing. You don't have to do that, but just be out there, acknowledge it. Wow, how gorgeous is this moon? So do all these little things to connect with your feminine energy, and also figure out where in your life can you change that a little bit, right? Are you living with a partner that may be male, that you can recognize, hey, can you maybe do a little bit more of this so I can do more of that? What is going to make you feel more feminine? For some people, it's cooking a meal for somebody. For others, that doesn't do it for them whatsoever. So finding out for you what feels good and feminine, and just start small. Do it once a week. Wear a dress once a week. If you're wearing a baseball hat, stop wearing baseball hats. That's a very masculine look, a
Oh,
very masculine
interesting.
energy
I
thing,
never connected it.
and mainly very American as well. So
Yeah.
if we recognize, just taking that off, putting your hair in a ponytail, or wearing like a feminine hat, if the hat is your thing. And I know for some people it's just a matter of like, I didn't wash my hair today, so I'm going to put a baseball hat on. But that makes you show up a little bit more masculine that day. So having these little things around us to just have the awareness of like, okay, I'm going to connect with that energy that's with me, because the reality is we're working, we're doing all the things, and all of those types of things kind of strip us away from that female energy that we need in order to kick in all the aspects of our reproductive system to say, let's go, it's time to get going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I definitely see that um our world being as masculine as it is, and especially if we work or like we have our own businesses, like there are not very many templates for how to do this in a feminine way.
Yeah,
So absolutely, I think embracing more of that feminine energy, regardless of what we're doing, quote
right.
unquote, is helpful.
Yeah. And it looks different for everyone, right?
Mhm.
So like that's why I think it's so important for you to find what makes it click for you, and you'll know when you're starting to do it. For me, it's dancing, and that's, literally, I tell people 2 minutes a day. I did mine, it probably 45 seconds of what it was today, and then I had to turn it off and like get going to work. But just
Yeah.
having that movement for me is getting into my feminine energy.
Yeah.
So it could be lots of different things, and just open your mind to the option of, okay, do I need to be in a more feminine energy in order for my body and my mind and everything, my spiritual aspect, to click in so that it's doing what nature intended it to do?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I want to dial it back just a second because we went right into masculine and feminine, and
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure there are people listening that are like, what are they talking about?
Yeah.
So, how do you, what are some indicators or what are some things that you talk to your clients about where you're like, oh, you're like kind of more in your masculine than in your feminine? What are some of those like red flags or like blinking lights that you're like, that's a really good gonna be important for you?
I think the most important or the biggest, I guess, light bulb moment to see that, and it's so easy again because most of us really are, is how do you carry the stress in your life? What are you doing? Are you working? Are you managing all the things, right? Where do you have the time to just be and cultivate nurture, right? We know that the feminine nurtures. So we want to get yourself in a point of doing that. Most of us are so busy doing, and that's
Mhm,
very masculine.
mhm,
So we can take an inventory, let's say, of what are you doing in your life? And most people can give you a laundry list of all the things that they are doing in their life and not a lot of what they're nurturing in their life. So
mhm,
that's where we can look to see, okay, where do we need to turn on this feminine energy more rather
yeah,
than and dial down the masculine as much as possible. Sometimes it's not possible to dial down the masculine, but we also try to see where can we basically make a shortcut so that we can have more time to nurture, right?
mhm,
So little things like I do, I get my kids everything ready at night so that I have a little bit more time in the morning. We have our menu basically for the week all scheduled out so that I have more time for me to do the nurturing things that I need to do.
mhm,
So finding little tricks and trades for yourself of, okay, if I dial this down a little bit, maybe I'll have more time over here. And it really is, maybe it's yoga, maybe it's just laying on the floor with your hand on your heart and your other hand on your womb and just taking some deep breaths, giving yourself a womb massage, getting into that feminine energy of yourself. If you have a partner, ask them to do that. That's a super powerful energy to have that working together and connecting that masculine feminine energy. But most people, it doesn't take long to figure out, oh gosh, I'm really not living in a feminine at all, right? They're playing golf with their husband, maybe. They're wearing hoodies every day as they're working because they're behind Zoom or whatever. They're working, then they're going to the store, they're doing all the things. There's very little space for feminine, and it's not really encouraged. It's not an open conversation that we're talking about to do that. And in some cases, they're like, "Oh, why do you have a dress on? You're not going anywhere today," right? It's like, no, I'm not. I'm just going to sit at my desk. But at the same time, I'm trying to get more into my feminine energy. Like, oh, okay, that's cool. So,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And for you, what does it feel like when you're in your feminine?
Well, I think especially because I have 3 little boys and a husband, so I'm constantly
You're like,
surrounded by
oh,
masculine
boys.
energy.
I'm
For
pretty
me,
similar. I don't have three boys, but I have one boy and my husband.
yeah,
So
so you're
surrounded by
outnumbered.
men. Yeah.
Yeah. For me, it's like color too. I wear a lot of pink. I
Me
do
too.
make the effort to put on earrings every day. I do small things to show up that I'm putting the effort in to be more feminine than I would perhaps even prior to having kids. I always was aware of it in a sense because I've been life coaching for a long time and this has always been part of that practice.
Mhm.
But I think there's an aspect of I was living very masculine because I was doing everything for myself, right?
Mhm.
Managing my own house, managing my own businesses, etc. So I have to be very conscious of the fact that I need to stay in my feminine. And also, I think now defining those things in this world of gender is also important because it really has nothing to do with gender. I just want to point that out again. We all have masculine and feminine energy. It's finding what is the essence of you and
Mhm.
cultivating that. And for me, my essence is a very feminine essence. So I feel better when I am wearing something that suits me more rather than a baseball hat or whatever. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a time and a place for that. But I really you won't see me doing that very often, maybe once a year, if that. But also letting people open the door for me, letting people, treat me as that feminine energy. And
Hmm.
I think the more that we do that, the more people recognize, oh, okay, I'm gonna I'm gonna treat her that way, right? And if
Yeah.
we come to the
Yeah.
table of like, I can do anything, I'm gonna do all of this, I got this, then the guys are like, okay, like you don't need us, right?
Right.
We don't have a place here with you. And my opinion is, I wouldn't be living in the house I have without a man. I can't drive on a road without the men building those roads. Like, I'm all about the men in our
Hmm.
lives. Like, they
Hmm.
are beautiful. We need to celebrate them and whatnot. And most of us need that male sperm to make our babies.
Right.
So we want to make sure that we're dancing in a way that is respectful and balanced for everybody in what
Yeah.
in the time that they're, the time and the place or the season that they're in their life.
Hmm. Hmm. And it's really like being able to receive the
Yes.
gifts that the men around us are offering,
A
right?
hundred percent. And that can be awkward sometimes when you're not used
Yeah.
to it. Even at the beginning, when you were talking about my bio, to receive, receiving is a very
Yeah.
feminine um, attribute, right?
Yeah.
They just
Yeah.
lay there and receive. I mean, that sounds kind of strange to say that, but when you see the old paintings on the walls in Egypt and Greece and everything, the women are there and they're fanning, getting fanned and whatnot. Like, we're meant to be receiving. And sometimes that can be very, very uncomfortable. And if you have any past traumas as well, that can be very, very, awkward. So working through those and figuring out, why do I not feel okay to be receiving and to be in my feminine energy? And maybe there's some work that you need to do around that as well, which is totally okay. But even that awareness of recognizing, like, that feels not good for me. Why doesn't it feel
Hmm.
good for me? Maybe you grew up in a house full of boys and you didn't see feminine energy. Maybe feminine energy in your house was looked down upon.
Hmm.
Maybe it was like, girls are bad, men are the best, and so you wanted to be more like that. I'm here to just say, like, there's space and room for everything, but especially on a fertility journey, we really want to cultivate that and call that in.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know you hinted at it earlier. I get the sense that you connect with this also. Do you envision fertility and the process of creating a human as a like a core fundamentally feminine thing?
100%. I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're trying to create in our lives in every way, right? Whether that's a business, whether that's a human, like making a little human inside of us,
Hmm.
um, building a family. Maybe you're not conceiving naturally, and you want to build it through adoption, or you want to create it through egg donation, sperm donation, whatever. We're all looking to create in some way. And so to me, that really is a fundamental way of where we start and where we have this baseline of, what are we creating? Do we have the faith and trust in our body that it's able to create? And again, not necessarily in a fertility sense. Maybe you're not able to physically have children. My sister
Hmm.
at 26 was not able to have children, but she's still able to create lots of amazing things in her life and to birth amazing things in her life. And so I think it's really changing that narrative of, I am able to create in lots of ways, whether that's through Play-Doh or coloring book or through a recipe. Or I have people that are like, I created a spreadsheet today. Amazing. You created something. It's just that
Yeah.
intention of, I am constantly creating every day. And what is it that I want to create? What's the intention you're putting out there? For me, it was creating a family. It was creating three people, three little souls together. And so what did I need to do in order to get to that point of bringing these three souls together and creating them? And that could have looked a lot of different ways. For us, it was, we were able to get pregnant naturally, but that I would have done other ways as well, because I knew that those souls were meant to be together in whatever way that was. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, such a different conversation than I thought we were getting into, but I
I
loved every
know.
minute of it. I could just keep going and talking to you for so much longer. Before we wrap up, can we just go back for a minute or so on the fertility over 40? Is there anything that you wish you knew, or you wish your clients knew, about fertility, conception, and pregnancy in the 40s that you want to share with people?
Yes. So I think the biggest reason for one of the biggest reasons for my success is I really did not buy into that societal, theory of the fact that it wasn't possible over 35 or 40 for that matter. It
Mhm.
just wasn't in my brain. Did I know it wasn't ideal? Of course. We're not, we live in this world. We're not stupid. We get the fact that it's not a good situation. But also, I was very convinced that I was doing all of those things that we talked about in the beginning. I knew I was hitting the mark with everything. I knew my body was healthy. I knew I had this I was saying new, but I had this knowing that I was capable of doing it. So when I went to a doctor and they said you need to do egg donation, I was like, I don't think I do. So it's listening to that intuition of your body,
Mhm.
really honing in on that. As I said, also go to see the doctor, see what the lay of the land is for you, what's happening. I did have a fibroid surgery because I physically had something there that was preventing it. So we knew that that was one hurdle we need to do. So that's a great example of, see what's happening, what could be preventing that pregnancy. But also 40 doesn't mean it's not possible. I mean, there's social evidence everywhere all day long for people that are, I mean, I hear it once a week that people are having babies at 50. That's like mind blowing. You can go to villages in remote places of the world and they're having them 50 plus. And
Mhm.
that's because they have a very natural way of living. They have a very low stress. They live in a way that, if they're healthy and their cycles are happening, there's no reason for us not to still be able to have children. So I would say the first thing is keep your blinders on, so to speak. Get one with your body and your own intuition to know you are capable of doing this. You want to hit all the marks of the things that you should be doing and figuring out who's on your fertility team to help you get to that other side. But don't lose sight or faith in the fact that you can do it. And it may not be the way that you traditionally think it's going to be, but you will get there. And I think a lot of people traditionally just be like, oh, I'm turning 40, it's not going to be possible for me. That is absolutely not true.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing this message, and like all of your wisdom and all of the amazing tools and tips and all the things that you have shared so far. Where is the best place for people to connect with you?
They can find me at my website, elizabethking.com, or on Instagram, the official Elizabeth King.
Okay, great. Awesome. We'll put those links into the show notes. And thank you so much for joining us today. We're so excited to be able to share all of your amazing wisdom with the world.
Thanks for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
Was that an amazing episode or what? Make sure to check our show notes so that you can link up with our guests. And if you're not a part of our secret Fertile AF community, you can join for free via the link in our show notes. Last but not least, have you showed us some love lately? It would mean the world to us if you could share and review our podcast. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time on Egg Meets Sperm. Peace.